Hey everyone, Jamie here. Just wanted to quickly go through a few things before the video starts. First of all, I should probably address the elephant in the room. Why the hell is this video so late? Well, the simple thing is, after finishing the Puss in Boots retrospective, I kind of just wanted a break from YouTube, like 2-week break just to recuperate and rest up after the amount of work I put into that video. So, yeah, that's the reason the video is so late, because I didn't start work on it until like a good 3 weeks into August. So that's what it is. I know it's September now, but I also struggle with motivation when getting back into it. But don't worry, the August film ranking won't be anywhere near as long of a wait. I aim to get out before the 10th. Now the other slightly more serious thing I want to mention is, because this video is covering films, I felt like, and specifically it covers a certain Barbie girl in a certain Barbie world, which came out in 2023, I wanted to mention that I fully express support for the writers and actors currently striking. I think studio executives are a load of degenerates, and they should pay their workers because they make great art. I just wanted to make this video to, just spread awareness, go support the strikers, because they deserve to be paid a fair amount for the great work they're putting in, especially with films like Barbie, as you will see. This doesn't mean you have to stop watching modern movies and stuff. Generally, good rule of thumb is to try and support more indie creators and stuff like that instead of the big mainstream films. But you don't have to boycott it. Just be aware and spread awareness about the strikers. And this is for you, studio executives, especially Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers, you are a parody of a studio. I thought Disney was the worst, but nope. This is for you, Warner Brothers. Actually, you get 2. Disney gets 1, Warner Brothers gets 2. Anyway, on to the video. Enough of these pointless intros. I have literally nothing new to add. I watched 16 new films for this year, which I'm going to talk about in detail in this video, but I also rewatched 2 movies I've already seen and talked about this year. First up, I rewatched Fantastic Mr. Fox, and I honestly don't have a reason why I did. I just kind of fancied rewatching it after I got the Criterion Blu-ray recently, and I still love the film. I also rewatched Whiplash, mostly because I knew it would be important for me to watch in order to help with my motivation for my Puss in Boots retrospective recently, and overall it's still one of my absolute favourite films I've ever seen. Anyway, as for the other 16 films, I saw for a few dollars more Apocalypse Now, Top Gun, Hot Shots, Pom Poko, Bottle Rocket, The Cat Returns, The Incredibles, Robots, Pan's Labyrinth, Ratatouille, Diary of a Wimpy Kid Rodrick Rules, The Shape of Water, RRR, Top Gun Maverick, and Barbie. No, I didn't watch Oppenheimer and probably won't be able to watch it until it comes out on streaming. Anyway, let's get to talking about these films.
Oh, he's stealing! He's stealing!
Okay, so in contrast to most of the other films which are at the bottom of these lists, Bottle Rocket isn't actually bad. It's a decently well made movie, it's got nothing explicitly bad, and I can understand why a good amount of people enjoy it. However, for me, I just felt incredibly indifferent towards this film. Whilst it's not a bad movie per se, I honestly remember next to nothing about this film and was just kinda bored when watching. That's why my rating is quite low, as when compared to the films I rated higher, I just had such a small reaction to this film. The story was standard, the characters were fine, the actors were pretty good to be fair, and the direction was also just kinda standard and unmemorable, which is really weird to say considering the fact that this is a Wes Anderson film. Say what you will about Wesley, but his direction is anything but unmemorable. It is stylized, unique, and really creative. Yet here, due to this being his directorial debut, he plays it safe and creates a standard, unstylized movie which sticks out when compared to the rest of his filmography. Obviously I understand why this film is a lot simpler, as you're not going to go stylized for your first film. However, in hindsight, it makes Bottle Rocket just kind of forgettable by comparison. Overall, Bottle Rocket is a fine enough film, but I really didn't care much for it and was instead just kind of bored when watching, as nothing grabbed my attention, and I haven't thought about it since.
I can be your wingman, like in Top Gun. I can be Goose to your Maverick, yeah.
Top Gun is a decent film, but I'm not the biggest fan of it overall. There are plenty of parts I enjoyed about it, from the music to the main plane scenes and the final act, and the actors all gave great performances, but on the whole I just didn't really connect with this film. A lot of the film felt pretty aimless and without stakes, and was more so boring than anything. I don't find Maverick to be a particularly enjoyable protagonist, and the film is obviously cheesy as hell.
But with that said, it's not a bad movie and it definitely picks up after the stuff with Goose. I can see why it's a classic for many people, but it just wasn't really my thing. Yeah, that's basically all I have to say about it.
I told you a million times, I'm not a damn raccoon.
Pom Poko is good but not amazing, which thus makes it one of the weakest Ghibli films I've seen. I did still like it though. It was quite a fun movie with some great ideas and entertaining characters, and it was certainly memorable, although maybe I only find it memorable because of the hyper-expanding testicles. There are many moments which I got on with, and when the film focused on the fun transformation stuff, I really enjoyed it. However, the biggest problem with the film is that it's 2 hours long. The pacing drags so much at various points throughout. If the film was a nice clean 90 minutes, I would have enjoyed it a lot more. Not to mention, I also didn't get the ending at all and found it way too rushed. Despite everything though, I'd still recommend checking this out as it does still have plenty of fun aspects to it.
My uncle used to tell me that not playing to win is like sleeping with your sister. Sure, she's a great piece of tail with a blouse full of goodies, but it's just illegal.
Did I seriously put Hot Shots above Top Gun? Yes. Yes I did, and I honestly don't care because I think it is unironically a better movie. For those who don't know, Hot Shots is a spoof of Top Gun, which means that it follows similar plot beats, reuses many familiar scenes, and shouldn't be taken too seriously. Yet despite being silly, I genuinely think that Hot Shots is a really well made spoof movie. Not only is the comedy brilliant throughout, especially with moments like
Admiral Benson! Really? That's my name too!
However, this film also has a decent budget, which leads to more elaborate, unique jokes, and the pace of the film overall is strong, and way better than the pace of Top Gun. Alongside that, the comedy is balanced out well. A lot of spoofs use pop culture references way too much, but Hot Shots smartly keeps those references to just a single scene. Not to mention, Admiral Benson, the most overtly comedic character, is nothing more than a side character, so he never overstays his welcome and continues to be entertaining throughout. Overall, this is easily one of the best spoof movies, and I can't believe I went into so much detail explaining why. Because it's a well-made spoof with a good pace, I unironically prefer Hot Shots to Top Gun.
Hey, who's the dame with the sweet keister?
Robots is the most epic movie ever made. If you don't count the court jester, of course. Seriously, this movie is amazing. Don't let my rating fool you. If I was to rate Robots purely based on how much I enjoyed it, then it would be in my top 5 for this list. No, I'm not joking. Robots is such a fun romp with a great sense of humour. Honestly, I love the humour of mid-2000s animated movies like this, and there's a reason why there have been so many memes made about this film. I will say that not every joke works, and overall Robots isn't the greatest thing ever, as it has some pacing problems here and there, as well as a bit of an identity crisis, as it isn't sure whether it wants to be a fun action movie for kids or a deep socio-political commentary. No, I'm not joking about the socio-political side. When the film revolves around the evils of capitalism and class division whilst also commenting on paid healthcare, it becomes surprisingly deep and profound. Why is Robots of all films on par with Parasite in terms of commentaries on class division? And why are these messages blended into a movie with Aunt Fanny? However, let's be honest here, every single flaw of this movie is completely invalidated by the presence of Big World! Woo! It's Big World! Yeah, Big World is legendary. Not only is he just a nice guy with a dope as hell Domino's collection, but he's also thick and he's played by the legendary Mel Brooks. Seriously, how can you not love this guy? Okay, I'll be honest, I can never talk about Robots seriously as I instead develop serious brain rot. But you know what, sometimes I like an entertaining as hell movie which I can switch my brain off to. All I'm saying is that cinema peaks with Robots.
Oh no, he's hot!
So, apparently Devin Bostick, aka Rodrick, is in Oppenheimer. And the reason why is because Nolan remembered him from the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies. That is honestly amazing, and hearing this gave me incentive to rewatch Rodrick rules. Why did I rewatch this film specifically? Because it's got the most amount of Rodrick out of the trilogy, and you can't have too much Rodrick. Everyone says he's super hot, and they are 100% correct. Anyway, as for the film itself, I still really enjoy it. This is easily the best film of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid trilogy because there are not only many banger jokes, including a moment where they reference goddamn Numa Numa, but it easily has the strongest emotional beats out of the trilogy. I'm not saying that I was moved by this movie or anything, but the stuff revolving around Greg and Roderick's relationship was surprisingly compelling and well done. I cared about these characters here, which is something I wasn't expecting to say. Overall, I think Rodrick will succeed in everything it set out to do, which is why I rated it higher than Robots, because Robots didn't exactly do everything it wanted to do. Obviously, despite being stronger than Robots, Rodrick doesn't hold up as well when compared to the rest of the films on this list. Everybody wants to be a cat. A spin-off to Whisper of the Heart? Yes, please! Yes, you heard that right. The Cat Returns is a spin-off to one of my favourite movies ever. Although it's not a spin-off in the traditional sense, as it instead revolved around a fictional character created by Shizuku in Whisper of the Heart, that being the Baron, and the film is essentially an adaptation of one of Shizuku's stories. That's honestly a brilliant idea, and that reason alone makes me love the film. However, I really liked the film overall outside of that. Although I have to say, what the hell was everyone on whilst making this movie? Seriously, this movie is batshit crazy and weird. I mean, it revolves around a girl getting ready to marry a frickin' cat. I mean, cats are cool and all, but I wouldn't want to marry them. They're too much of an arsehole to want to marry. Oh, and they're also a different species. Yeah, honestly, I absolutely loved the crackhead energy of this film. It was just an absolute blast throughout, and the fun energy left me thoroughly entertained. I've just realised that the last few films on this list have all been just really fun and epic, and that's the reason why I love them. Whilst these films may not be the deepest things ever, I don't care because they are all just so entertaining. The reason why The Cat Returns is the best of this batch though is mostly because of my attachment to Whisper of the Heart and my love for this animation. However, just like those other movies, this film isn't perfect. I think the pacing for this film was a bit off throughout as it took a while to really get going, but in spite of that, I love this wacky, zany, crazy cat movie.
Puss in Boots laughs in the face of death. Bounty hunter.
You know that I've had a good month movie-wise if we've reached the 9 out of 10 films and we haven't even hit the halfway point. Either way, I absolutely love For a Few Dollars More. I mentioned last video that I love westerns, and the Dollars trilogy is the prime example of that. All three of the films are just so cool to watch and I love them all. However, whilst The Fistful of Dollars was great, I love this film even more. Not only is it equally as awesome with an also phenomenal soundtrack, but the story is a lot more interesting. In A Fistful, the plot was kinda basic and couldn't hold my attention the whole way through, whereas here, the bounty hunter plot was consistently gripping throughout, and it also made the film unique as you don't see these kinds of stories that much. However, the main thing which elevates this film are the characters. Not only is Clint Eastwood amazing like usual, but Lee Van Cleef is a fantastic secondary protagonist and rival bounty hunter. The two actors play off each other so well, and scenes like the hat shooting are legendary. However, the villain, Indio, is also amazing. Not only is he really entertaining, but he is intimidating as hell at the same time. He rides that fine line between goofy and nail-biting and is just such a fantastic antagonist. And this all builds up to that final duel. Oh my god, I love it so much. Watch this film, please. I would love to rate it higher on this list, however my recent viewing was hindered quite a bit by the fact that I developed a mild stomachache whilst watching. Thankfully it went away before the climax, but it did still distract me during the second half. However, I still adore this film.
I'm just a kid, where I see love, she sees a friend. What will it take for her to see the man behind the tent and fight for me? I'm just a kid, and I'm enough, and I'm great at doing stuff.
Whilst I was unable to watch Oppenheimer, I am so glad that I was able to watch Barbie in cinemas because it was absolutely legendary. I mean, we all knew this from the trailers, but I was still really surprised by how unironically fantastic it was. Not only was the film consistently funny throughout with fantastic performances from Margot Robbie and especially Ryan Gosling, but the production was also incredible. The sets are fantastic and Barbie Land just feels so real, and I think that the Barbie movie overall is just a visual treat. However, alongside everything, the movie had a surprisingly intriguing and profound gender story at the heart of it. Whilst not shown in the most subtle of ways, the film showcases the struggles women go through and criticises the idea of a society run by a dominant gender, whether it's males in the real world or females in Barbie Land.
Oh, but this movie is anti-men.
No it's not. It's anti-patriarchy but not anti-men. It's got no problem with men. It has a problem with a single gender being dominant. If you didn't pick up on that, then you either didn't watch it to the end, or the Barbie movie was just too intelligent for your underdeveloped incel mind. I wouldn't say that the film was perfect though, as the pacing was a bit off. I feel like the film was the right length overall, but didn't use its length correctly. And I will say that I do understand some of the non-sexist criticisms with the movie. However, for me overall, I just had a blast. Of course I would love the movie with I'm Just Ken and motherfucking Alan in it. Seriously, Alan is literally me.
Let's play Spot the Viet Cong Soldier.
I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about Apocalypse Now. Whilst I do think that is a really fantastic film, I do have major problems with it. The thing is, I thought this movie was absolutely brilliant right up until the moment where Marlon Brando rocks up. This is absolutely going to be a controversial opinion, but I did not connect with the stuff with Kurt, who's Marlon Brando's character, at the very end of the film. The ending worked on paper, but it just didn't work for me in execution because I felt like Brando gave one of the most pretentious performances I have ever seen. Shoot me all you want, but I thought it was crap. The performance was just so off to me, and I thought this because I felt like Brando was overacting, but not in an over-the-top crazy way. Instead, he was overacting in a way that he felt like an actor, not a character. There's a reason why I'm saying Brando instead of Kurtz, because I just can't look past the actor, and so I can't believe the character. It's really hard to explain my problems with this performance, but I just didn't get into it. Couple that with the direction becoming a bit too wishy-washy by the end for my liking, and I ended up getting completely taken out of the film by the end. However, in spite of my flaws, I still love the film because 85% of it is practically perfect. The stuff directly focused on the Vietnam War is phenomenally directed and incredibly immersive. It's loud and destructive and made you feel the horrors of the war. Not to mention, this film is bloody horrifying at many points and made me hate America more than I already do. And made me hate war more than I already do. In general, I think this is one of the most interesting anti-war films because it is disguised as a pro-war film due to the fact that we get the America's perspective and the characters don't really question what's going on. Instead, it's up to the audience to decide how they feel. What also aids the film are the characters, who feel very real. They joke with each other and have natural feeling conversations, which makes them feel like people instead of vessels to deliver a message, unlike Marlon Brando. I also think the pacing was mostly really strong, and this is coming from someone who watched the 3-hour Final Cut version. Overall, in spite of my flaws with the ending, Apocalypse Now is worthy of the praise and is absolutely a must-watch. Don't let my stupid criticisms put you off.
What are you, some kind of goat?
I'm a fawn, you dork.
In my last ranking, I talked about how I watched The Devil's Backbone, which was a Guillermo del Toro film which felt like the prototype film for Pan's Labyrinth. And now I get to talk about Pan's Labyrinth in detail because it is even better than The Devil's Backbone. Now, I don't think it's a perfect film, as I do think that the fairy tale stuff and the Spanish Civil War stuff can oftentimes clash. Whilst I understand the metaphorical point of the fairy tale stuff, it does sometimes feel out of place. However, the main war stuff was just fantastic. It was absolutely brutal and nasty, but it worked for the stories that shows how awful this period in history was. Captain Vidal is one evil mofo and you love to hate him. However, he was contrasted with many genuinely nice people who you want to see succeed, like Mercedes and Dr. Ferrero Rocher. Sorry, ever since my film studies teacher made that joke, it's been stuck in my head. However, whilst the fairy tale stuff wasn't as good as the war stuff, it was still really well done with fantastic practical effects, and the Pale Man scene is iconic for a reason. I've realised recently that I do quite like dark fantasy, so it's no wonder why many parts of this film appeal to me. Alongside all of that, the direction is stellar and the music is just beautiful. Whilst I can understand the criticisms for this film, I love it nonetheless. Yet despite this praise, it wasn't actually my favourite Del Toro film I saw this month.
They judge me before they even know me.
Be honest. Raise your hand if you prejudged The Shape of Water before you saw it just because you heard it was the movie about Sally Hawkins banging a fish guy. Well, I'm here to tell you that The Shape of Water is a genuinely fantastic film and is so much more than just fish sex. This is a film all about the struggles faced by various people shunned by society during the age of Cold War tensions. In this film, the Cold War leads to the US to do very horrible things to the fish do just so they can one-up the Soviets, so much so they don't treat the creature with any kind of respect, instead see it as nothing more than a monster. This shunned creature reflects our main characters, who are also all essentially shunned from society. Eliza is non-verbal, so obviously struggles with communication, but at the same time she's able to connect with the also non-verbal fish creature, because they both know how to communicate without words, which leads to their relationship. Zelda is a black woman, and so is oftentimes treated as a lesser person by other people, just like how the fish creature is deemed to be a lesser entity. And finally, Giles is a closeted gay man during a time when being gay was illegal, and is therefore treated unfairly. The reason for this though is because back in the day, gay relationships were seen as weird by many people, which reflects how the current audience finds the fish sex weird. Yes, that's right, the weirdness of the fish sex has a purpose, and no one seems to acknowledge this purpose. Whilst the concept is still a bit too bizarre for my taste, I respect its purpose. Alongside these deeper aspects, the film is incredibly well made, the music is beautiful, and Del Toro's direction is stunning. Say what you will about this movie winning Best Picture, but can we at least agree that it deserved Best Director? I will say that I do find the villain a bit bland, but outside of that, I really love this movie and doesn't deserve a lot of its criticisms. It is a visually gorgeous film with interesting themes and brilliant characters, and I implore you to just give it a chance.
You know, my friends in college used to call me Maverick.
Top Gun Maverick is so much better than the original Top Gun that is not even funny. Whilst the original was slow and dull before picking up in the final act, Maverick is consistently engaging throughout the entire runtime. The main improvement from the original is the story. The first film had practically no story to it until the very end, which made everything too easy for the characters, whereas here, the threat is established very early on and the plot revolves around the plan to take out the weapons. Alongside that, the film spends most of the first half demonstrating how dangerous the mission is, which gives the film some stakes overall, which is able to keep the audience engaged. What also helps to make the film engaging is the fact that the action in this movie is superb. The plain stuff in the first movie is cool, but it's even more impressive here. The direction is immaculate, the sound is perfection, and the stunts, oh man, the stunts. There's a reason people love Tom Cruise. However, the main reason I adore this movie so much is because it has deeper aspects to it. Alongside the fun plane stuff, there's a really compelling storyline between Maverick and Rooster which expertly follows on from the first movie. Not only is this emotionally captivating, but it also allows this film to be one of the best legacy sequels ever made, as the original is followed through on an organic way. However, alongside that, Maverick's age and the time passage also aids the legacy sequel aspect of the film, as it gives it a purpose to why it's coming out 40 years later. Overall, Top Gun Maverick was absolutely worthy of all the praise it received, and I cannot recommend it enough. You don't even have to watch the original film to enjoy it. Instead, make Bob happy and just watch this film.
Where is my super suit?
Many people rank The Incredibles as their favourite Pixar movie, and for good reason. It is without a doubt one of their best films with fantastic action, brilliant characters, a fire soundtrack, and mature ideas throughout. With all of that said though, it's not my favourite Pixar movie, but luckily you won't have to wait too long to see what my actual favourite is. Anyway, back to this film. As someone who has started to get a bit sick of superhero movies as of late, it says a lot that I will always go back to this film. One reason why is because the main superhero story is really well done. As I said before, the action is fantastic with many memorable scenes like the prologue, the Omnidroid fight, Dash on the water, the climax, etc. Alongside that, the spy stuff where the characters are exploring and infiltrating the island base are also fantastic. We see the unique ways they use their powers, and there are constantly new layers being peeled back to keep the story engaging. It's also helped by the score, which feels very reminiscent of John Barry Bond scores, which really aids the spy stuff. And finally, Syndrome is easily the best Pixar villain. He's menacing, threatening, incredibly memorable, and a fantastic commentary on entitlement, fan toxicity, and hero syndromes. However, the ultimate reason for why this film works so well is because the superhero stuff isn't the focus. Instead, the film focuses on a deep family drama. We see a marriage between two people get tested as a husband suffers a midlife crisis where he wants to relive his youth, whilst his wife becomes suspicious of an affair before the two fully realise how much they mean to each other by the end. They argue in uncomfortably realistic ways, but are characters which are very easy to connect and sympathise with. It's all just so well done and is portrayed in a very mature way, and the film overall feels like it was made for adults first, and I respect that. Overall, we all know why this movie is incredible. I mean, it's literally in the name.
So I have returned to my death park, called Kill the British.
I have listened to Natu Natu way too much. Can you blame me though? It is an absolute banger and you all need to listen to it right now. There's a reason I used it for the opening montage. Anyway, RRR is one of the most awesome movies I have ever seen and left me absolutely speechless by the end. But the weird thing is that it really shouldn't work. It's got a lot of things which would normally be problems for me. It's over the top, the slow-mo is overused, the CGI is poor, and the physics are practically non-existent. Yet strangely enough, they work here. The thing is, because this film plays these Tollywood cliches completely straight and gives them a big budget, the aspects which would normally be bad instead completely loop around to become awesome instead, whilst also being an absolute blast to watch. Seriously, this is easily the most fun I have ever had with an action movie, and the amount of fist pumping I did was unmatched. The pure enjoyment I got out of this film helped me to stay hooked throughout all 3 hours, which is very rare for me to do as I generally prefer shorter films. However, the main reason I was engaged with this film was for, once again, the drama. Our protagonists, Beam and Raju, are some of the most compelling characters I have seen in a while. Beam works as both a badass action hero and a sympathetic character who's simply just trying to rescue a kidnapped girl from his village. Meanwhile, Raju seems like a horrible hard-ass from the British Army, yet he has so much more to him and his backstory was fantastic and I won't spoil it. Alongside the characters, this film worked for me dramatically because my god did it open my eyes. As you can all probably tell, I am British and I can indeed confirm that history in our schools does in fact gloss over the atrocities the British Empire committed in colonies, especially India. I knew we were bad before going into this film, but I had no idea we were this bad. The saddest part is that the portrayal of the Brits wasn't even over the top or exaggerated, it was probably the most accurate part of the film. RRR should be mandatory viewing in all British history classes. I'm sure there are other more historically accurate films you could show instead, but I'd rather just show this film because it's also an enjoyable as hell action flick. Overall, RRR is just plain incredible, from the action which works surprisingly well, to the epicness of the whole thing, to the way it opened my eyes to history, to the fascinating characters, to motherfucking Natu Natu. What more could you want? I really wanted this to be at the top of this list. However, without intending to, I ended up watching one other film this month which I already knew would automatically take the #1 spot.
Ratatouille's on in a minute. It's meant to be amazing.
Fair play, it's fucking good.
I just realised that if you look at some of the most recent films which crack the top spot on these lists, you'll be able to see that I have a very particular taste. May had Whisper of the Heart, June had Whiplash, and in this ranking, Ratatouille is at #1, and they all have one main thing in common. They are all about the struggles of an artist. Now, I don't think Ratatouille is as good as these two masterpieces, but it's still my top 10 favourite movies, so obviously still love it, and it is easily my favourite Pixar movie. Now I know someone's going to bring up Toy Story 2, which I deem to be my favourite animated movie and thus my favourite Pixar movie in my 2022 film ranking. The thing is, on reflection, I don't think this movie is that good, although I do still adore it. Instead, I now think that Ratatouille is the Pixar movie which resonates with me the most, and let's talk about that. The basic message of this movie is anyone can cook. What this means is that anyone is capable of great art, whether it's cooking, painting, writing, or filmmaking. To quote the movie itself,
"Not everyone can become a great artist, but a great artist can come from anywhere."
Whilst this may seem like a simple message, it is one of the most important things for an artist to hear. Doubt permeates through every artist as they wonder whether they're really good enough or whether anyone will actually care about what they do. Yet Ratatouille shows us that no matter your background, if you have the skill and passion, there will always be someone who appreciates your work. That is just one of the most uplifting things I've seen in a film, and this is ultimately why I adore this movie. This all culminates through the character of Anton Ego, who is one of my favourite Pixar characters. Despite being a cold, cynical, heartless critic, when you find something which truly resonates with him, he feels human and real, and he aids the message of the film so well. I also weirdly resonate with Ego now that I've been on Letterboxd for a while, which has made me feel like a critic myself. As a result, Ego's speech at the end, all about the hard work of artists compared to the easy work of critics, hit me even harder. There's so much I connect with in Ratatouille, and this is why I adore it. However, alongside all of that, there's so much else from this film which is fantastic. Remy is a brilliant lead, and his passion for his art is just infectious to watch. You know he's a well-written character when I can resonate with a talking blue rat. Linguini is also great and hilarious, and am I the only one who noticed themes of imposter syndrome through him? The side casts are also all fantastic, from Colette to the Psycho Chef Boys to Skinner. Oh my god, I just can't get enough of Ian Homer's Skinner. His manic energy and gradual descent into madness is just hilarious to watch, and he is easily my favourite Pixar arsehole, as in a Pixar antagonist who's not a villain but just an arsehole instead. This film is also brilliant on a technical level. The animation is held up really well, the music is just beautiful, and the direction is some of the best from Pixar. Brad Bird is one of my favourite directors ever, and this film is the prime reason why. Many of the shots in this movie stick in my mind all the time, the lighting is stunning, and the representations of various things like Remy's taste sensation is incredibly unique and visually appealing. Overall, I love every aspect of Ratatouille. It's funny, it's engaging, it's heartfelt, and it's incredibly uplifting. It always leaves me with a stupid grin on my face and even leaves me tearing up by the end. I just love it to bits, and if you somehow haven't seen it, fix that fact now. I couldn't be happier that this is the highest rated Pixar film on Letterboxd. In conclusion, the best way to describe my July films is fun. So many of these movies were an absolute blast to watch, from the pure epicness of robots, to the crackpot energy of The Cat Returns, to the fist-pumping cheers from RRR, and the hilariousness of Marlon Brando's acting in Apocalypse Now. It was also nice to have a month where the bottom film wasn't actually a film I disliked, and instead I was more positive throughout the entire video. I vastly prefer being positive to being negative, so I welcome more months like this. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. Go and support the strikers, and take care. Goodbye everyone.